Christina, thank you so much for being here today. Take it away.
Hello, my name is Christina. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I came here today to implore Justice Kavanaugh to protect Roe and our reproductive rights. Today I'm going to share my personal story with you. As I stand before you today, I'm sure my voice will shake. My abortion is not something I ever planned to share with the world. It's a deeply personal story and an experience that remains immensely painful to discuss. However, with our reproductive rights on the line, the time to speak is now. A wise woman once urged us to, quote, speak your mind even if your voice shakes. So today, I come before you trembling yet unwilling to back down from this important fight. I will not sit by idly and let a courtroom full of strangers ignore science, ignore facts, and dictate how I or anyone else cares for their body. I visited Monticello yesterday and was reminded of how unwavering Jefferson was about the separation of church and state. I think he'd be disgusted to see what is happening now. I came here from Seattle, Washington to demand that the Supreme Court of the United States of America protects reproductive rights for myself, for all of our daughters, for our granddaughters, our nieces, our friends, for all women of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The story I'm going to share with you today, my story, is one of immense pain and unfathomable heartache. It's a story of impossible choices, of unfair laws dictating my health care. But most of all, it's a story of a mother's unconditional love for her child. In many cultures, the love between a mother and a child is so intense that they have dedicated words to describe the bond. A bond so strong that it defies all other forms of love. It's unconditional and it is endless. I share that love with my son, Gabriel, who passed away 3 years back after just 21 short minutes of life. Back up a few months, my husband and I were so happy to learn we were expecting. We both had children from previous marriages, but we were newly married and thrilled to be starting a new chapter in our lives. Early on in my pregnancy, I had asked to have genetic screening, mostly because I was excited to find out the baby's gender. My OBGYN told me that because of my young age and the fact that I had already experienced 2 healthy pregnancies, she was not going to order the tests. Waiting was hard, but we knew in a few short months we'd have our answers. We bought a crib and a diaper bag, we started decorating the nursery, and began selecting names. Meanwhile, all my labs and ultrasounds came back normal, so other than feeling a little under the weather myself, all was well. Until it wasn't. I had just returned home from a last hurrah trip to Puerto Vallarta with my husband and 2 daughters, and was so anxious to go to the anatomy scan. I was a little over 21 weeks pregnant. I went into the appointment thrilled to know what gender my baby was. Instead, I learned that his death was imminent. I still remember the tech exclaiming, "It's a boy!" Oh, how my heart filled with joy. Just a minute or 2 later, she seemed hesitant to talk. Following the scan, she simply told me it was best to check in with my OBGYN. I went to their office and waited for close to 2 hours. The doctor, a man, brought me back to an exam room. I don't remember his exact words, but I remember immediately feeling like I couldn't breathe and collapsing onto the wall. My soul was crushed. He told me that our son had trisomy 18 and had so many fetal anomalies that he didn't think it'd be healthy to tell me all of them. My son was missing organs, including a stomach, and when the doctor, a man, brought me back to an exam room, I don't remember his exact words, but I remember immediately feeling like I couldn't breathe and collapsing onto the wall. My soul was crushed. He told me that our son had trisomy 18 and had so many fetal anomalies that he didn't think it'd be healthy to tell me all of them. My son was missing organs, including a stomach, and would certainly suffocate to death. He was incompatible with life. Most babies with his condition die in the womb. Of the babies who are born with trisomy 18, 95% do not make it to live birth. Of those few babies that do make it, only 5% make it to a year. My baby was missing organs, among many other defects, and he would not survive. At the moment, I thought I was experiencing the hardest thing I'd ever have to face. I was wrong. That was still yet to come. Those next few weeks were a blur, but I do remember the immense pressure I felt because of state laws to make a decision immediately. I was forced to decide the fate of my child in just a matter of 2 weeks or so. I immediately was seen by a maternal fetal medicine specialist who performed 2 more advanced anatomy scans. Those screenings confirmed that the baby was missing organs and would absolutely die outside of the womb. I still needed confirmation of the diagnosis and its severity for my own clarity, so I had to wait on both a referral and an amniocentesis. I had to schedule an appointment with an abortion clinic or a labor and delivery unit even prior to my decision, just in case I needed to have a D&E or a medical induction before the looming 24-week cutoff in my state. I also had to request referrals to an alternate hospital because the maternal fetal medicine clinic was religiously affiliated and their hospital would not perform any procedures, even if medically necessary, for my baby or for my health or the baby's health. In other words, their specialist told me that for my sake and the sake of the baby, it was best to terminate, but that she wasn't allowed to perform the procedure. I also had to try to process the devastating news of imminent fetal demise with my Catholic faith and balance that with the scientific facts before me. Those few weeks were agonizing. Just a few short weeks later, I had spoken with multiple priests, all of whom were supportive and compassionate. I met with multiple maternal fetal medicine specialists, and I also met with my own doctors who were caring for me and my underlying conditions. At the time, I received a partial result from my amniocentesis. The full results weren't ready until many weeks after my son was born. The clock was ticking, and I was forced to make a decision, although my first choice would have been to stay pregnant forever so I could protect him. Looking back, I wish the laws would have been more lenient to allow me the ability to get the information I needed before making a critical decision. But for some reason, some group of men making laws decided that wasn't my right. I ultimately chose to be medically induced. At that gestational age, I was reassured Gabriel could not and would not feel pain. It felt like the most rational way for me to allow my son, due to the medical complications. It truly felt like the only act of love I could show this baby who I desperately wanted but could not have. I spent many nights awake in bed wondering if I should risk my health and his and go to term. As any mother would tell you, the very last thing we want for our children is to watch them suffer, especially to death. Despite wanting every possible minute with my son, my choice was one rooted in unconditional love. Gabriel was born on May 30th and lived just 21 minutes, all of which was spent in my arms. During his short life, he met his parents, his 2 sisters, his grandmother, and was baptized. He felt no pain as he slowly stopped breathing, an imminent but peaceful death. I held him for hours until I felt it was time to let him go in peace. My husband bathed him in accordance with his Muslim faith. We dressed him in his first and only outfit and kissed him a painful goodbye. Leaving the hospital the next day was the most agonizing pain fathomable. We had a Catholic funeral. He was buried in a Catholic cemetery a week or so later. His headstone is inscribed with the words, "Held for a moment, loved for a lifetime," and that he is. That is my abortion story. Many people have approached me and told me that my story doesn't count, that it's an exception, but the laws say otherwise. As we speak, there are states in this country that are forcing pregnant people to continue their pregnancies even if fetal demise is certain. There are states in this great country who are banning abortions at 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 15 weeks, a time when many women don't even know they're pregnant. In cases like mine, So many of us didn't know about our fetal demise until the anatomy scan at 20 weeks or beyond. You see, abortion is not black and white. And I know all too well that if we give the court the power to dictate what we do with our bodies in some cases, they'll dictate what we do with them in all cases. We must never waver on reproductive health care rights. What I find odd is that men have trusted women since the beginning of time to raise their children, to act in the best interests of their kids, to care for them when they're healthy, to make decisions for them when they're sick. Historically, women are responsible for almost all aspects of childbearing. And yet, when it comes to making a decision regarding our own best interest or the best interest of unborn fetuses, men in this country feel they need to be calling the shots. If I'm trusted enough to raise my living children, I should be trusted enough to make decisions for my own body and those of my unborn children as well. Yes, this story is one that is easy to empathize with, and you may think the circumstances are rare, but my national support group of folks who terminated for medical reasons says otherwise. Nonetheless, I'm here today to demand reproductive justice for all pregnant people under all circumstances. No abortion is more righteous than the other. You each have the right to your own beliefs. You have the right to decide what path is best for you. What you do not have is the right to tell women in this country that your belief must also be theirs. Justice Kavanaugh, I'm speaking to you when I say that you swore an oath to uphold the laws of this great nation and to protect me and my rights. Today, I traveled across the country to implore you to put your own personal beliefs aside and do what is right, to do what our forefathers founded this nation on. Set your church and personal beliefs aside and protect the people of this country. You must defend Roe. Thank you.
All right, Christina.